What is the most controversial Mafia video on YouTube? Let's check it out. I'm James Gladwish and welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. As this channel approaches 100,000 subscribers, let's take a quick look at some of the most controversial videos that have appeared on this channel, OC Shorts. Larry Gallo was the leader of the infamous Gallo crew, a group of mobsters who went to war with their own family boss Joseph Profaci. What is rarely discussed is that during the Gallo-Profaci war, Larry Gallo sat down with the FBI and divulged many secrets of Cosa Nostra. Here is a clip from this controversial video that I made on the subject. In 1962, at the height of the Gallo-Profaci conflict, Larry Gallo sat down with the authorities and divulged information on many Cosa Nostra secrets, as seen in the following FBI file. The file reads, "The position of the Commission is explained by the following information furnished by Lawrence Gallo, who was interviewed on the evening of May 11, 1962, at Angus Steakhouse, Bronxville, New York. It is noted that Gallo is currently having a dispute with Joseph Profaci in New York. Gallo was questioned as to whether there was any organizational setup in the underworld. Gallo's reply was that there had to be an organizational setup, and the lower men in the organizational setup would be button men, and that he, Gallo, had formerly been a button man in the past under Joseph Profaci." What we can see in this first segment of the FBI file is that Larry Gallo was providing the authorities with information regarding the existence of the Mafia Commission. This meeting occurred before the supposed revelations by Genovese soldier Joseph Profaci, who wouldn't become an informant until several months later. Larry Gallo also starts to talk about the structure of a Cosa Nostra family. Interestingly, Larry Gallo, who was a formerly inducted member of the Mafia, states that he no longer considers himself a button man for Joseph Profaci, presumably due to the rebellion that he and his brothers were leading. In the next part of the FBI file, Gallo then identifies the names of some of the mobsters who made up the commission from the New York crime families. The FBI file states, "Gallo stated that the organizational setup was similar to a military arrangement, and that each commission member would have his own organization, and the persons that owed allegiance to this man would be considered as belonging to this man's family." Gallo further stated that men such as Joseph Profaci, Thomas Lucchese, Carlo Gambino, and Vito Genovese were due a high degree of respect and were members of the leadership group called the Commission. By looking further into the archive of FBI files, we see that this meeting between Gallo and the FBI in May 1962 wasn't the first time that Larry Gallo had provided information to the authorities. Although Larry Gallo was an inducted member of the Profaci family, he told the FBI that he no longer considered himself a member, and perhaps, therefore, in his eyes, he was not breaking any oath by talking with the authorities. Also, Gallo may have felt that by providing the FBI with information, this may help in weakening Joseph Profaci, the man he was at war with. Many books and documentaries state that mob boss Albert Anastasia was gunned down by Crazy Joe Gallo and Carmine Persico. I released a couple of videos that went against this accepted mob theory. In these videos, I stated that, according to FBI files, based on information by informant Gambino soldier Alfredo Sant'Antonio, the actual gunmen in the Anastasia hit were Stephen Grimalta and Joe Cahill, mobsters associated with the crime family's Lower East Side crew. And, according to the FBI files, the order to kill Anastasia did not come from Carlo Gambino and Vito Genovese, but from other powerful mobsters within the crime family. Here's a clip from one of those videos. Alfredo Freddy the Sicilian Sant'Antonio told the FBI that in 1957, 3 powerful Anastasia family members, Joseph Riccobono, Joseph Biondo, and Sant'Antonio's captain, Charlie Brush Dongara, learnt from a snitch that family boss Albert Anastasia had marked them for death and was planning to kill them. Teaming up with Joseph N. Gallo and Andrew Alberti, the group decided to act first in self-defense, before Anastasia could kill them. Joe Biondo then recruited family member Stephen Armone, a Lower East Side drug trafficker, into the plot. Stephen Armone then picked Stevie Coogan Grimalta and his associate Joseph Cahill to be the shooters. As mentioned in my previous video, the shooters prior to the assassination hid their weapons in the Park Sheraton hotel room of boxer Johnny Busso, a fighter unofficially managed by co-conspirator Andrew Alberti. After Anastasia was killed, Joseph Riccobono, allegedly the ringleader, went to family captain Domenico Arturi and told him that he represented a group who was responsible for Anastasia's slaying. Although this information goes against the traditional theory that Gallo and Persico killed Anastasia on orders from Gambino and Genovese, the information that is provided in the FBI files that I actually show in another part of the video make compelling reading. Carlo Gambino is often viewed as the gold standard of mob bosses, a low-key gangster who kept his emotions in check. However, according to information gathered by an illegal bug at Gambino's holiday home in Florida, Carlo Gambino was recorded being angry and abusive to his wife Catherine. As a clip from my video shows, throughout their vacation, Carlo Gambino was also recorded verbally abusing his wife and threatening her on several occasions. At 10:15 a.m. March 17, 1962, Catherine Gambino receives a telephone call for her husband, who then tells her to tell the caller that he has gone out and he isn't there. The FBI summary shows, after completion of the conversation, Mrs. Gambino complained to her husband that she does not like telling lies for him, and that he should let her know in advance that he was not on speaking terms. Gambino got very angry and said, "Don't you know what was going on with those bums? I'll kick you out of this room." The following day, on March the 18th, Carlo Gambino again loses his temper with his wife. At 11:40 a.m. March the 18th, 1962, Gambino and his wife were overheard arguing. Gambino was heard to say, "Do you know what they are doing, those dirty bums? They think I don't know." Gambino then told his wife that she talked too much, and if she did not shut up, he would cut her tongue off. This is definitely a side of Gambino that is rarely discussed in books and documentaries. What these FBI recordings show is that Carlo Gambino, who has nearly mythical status as a composed mob boss, was in fact prone to emotional outbursts like the rest of us. When Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano became a government witness, his testimonies did a lot of damage to the American Mafia in New York. Gravano would testify against around 37 individuals, including the likes of family bosses John Gotti from the Gambino family, Vicarina from the Colombo family, and John Riggi from the DeCavalcanti family. And a little later, he would also testify in the trial of Genovese boss Vincent Cingiganti. What is rarely discussed is that when Gambino mobster Michael Mikiscar DiLeonardo became a government witness, his various testimonies resulted in the convictions of around 80 individuals. Amongst many others, DiLeonardo would testify against high-ranking mobsters such as Gambino family boss Peter Gotti, former Gambino family acting boss John A. Gotti, Colombo family acting boss Alphonse Little Alleyboy Persico, and his underboss John Jackie DeRoss, as well as powerful Genovese crime family mobster Dominic Quiet Dom Cirillo. Here is a clip from one of the 2 videos that I made on this subject.
After nearly a decade of cooperation, he was due to be sentenced for his crimes on September the 9th, 2011. Let's review the government's official memorandum for Mikey Scar's sentencing, which included all of the trials that either DiLeonardo's information or testimonies were used in, and the mobsters that were sentenced as a result. The legal document starts as follows. Preliminary statement. Michael DiLeonardo's cooperation over the past 9 years has been nothing short of historic. Because of DiLeonardo's cooperation, over 80 mafia leaders, members and associates have been held accountable for their crimes. As discussed in more detail below, DiLeonardo's cooperation has led to the indictment and conviction of mobsters of every rank. Over 24 mafia leaders, bosses, acting bosses, administration members, consiglieri and captains, and many more soldiers and associates. Because of DiLeonardo's cooperation, various defendants have been convicted of committing or conspiring to commit at least 13 different murders, as well as other crimes including extortion, assault, kidnapping, jury tampering, securities fraud, loan sharking, tax offences and gambling. The defendants charged as a result of DiLeonardo's cooperation have repaid their victims and forfeited to the government over $30 million in criminal proceeds. DiLeonardo has testified at 14 different trials, which is believed to have been more than any other cooperating witness in the history of organised crime prosecutions.
These videos were controversial as they brought up the question, out of Gravano and DiLeonardo, whose testimonies did more damage to the mob? Gravano testifying helped put several bosses away for life, but Michael DiLeonardo cooperated against over double the amount than Gravano, although many of the convictions from DiLeonardo's testimonies were shorter sentences. Angelo Prisco was a powerful Genovese crime family mobster whose criminal career started off with the greatly feared East Harlem Purple Gang. In 2008, while serving a 15-month sentence for extortion, Genovese captain Angelo Prisco sat down with 2 FBI agents who advised Prisco that a 10-count racketeering indictment was pending against him. Angelo Prisco would then talk candidly with the FBI agents on various topics regarding Cosa Nostra. Here is a clip from that video.
Interestingly, Angelo Prisco would then share information on the state of the Genovese crime family, as well as sharing his opinion on powerful Genovese family mobster Tino Fiumara. The file reads, Prisco stated that he was going through a divorce with his wife Trish. Prisco went on to state that his family isn't what it used to be. When you were away in prison, they would take care of your family, and when you get out, you would get money. Now, things are different. Prisco stated that Tino Fiumara is full of himself and has a big ego. Prisco asked how old Fiumara was. Prisco went on to state that there was only one true boss of his family, and that guy is dead now. Anyone who may be the current or previous boss is acting.
Prisco was facing a murder charge in the pending indictment, and it could be argued that he spoke with the FBI to try and ascertain what information they had on that murder charge. Prisco's discussion with the FBI did not directly implicate any individuals with crimes, but it could be argued that even mentioning names of individuals in his discussions went against the old-school mob view that members should not sit down and talk with law enforcement. As covered earlier, Gambino mobster Mikey Scars DiLeonardo became a government witness. What is rarely discussed is that, before he began testifying against his mob colleagues, DiLeonardo went back on the street and wore a wire that recorded conversations that he had with other mobsters, including Frank Cali. Here is a clip from the video that caused quite a stir in the mob genre.
The prosecution then discusses how Mikey Scars DiLeonardo wore a wire and recorded a conversation with Frank Cali. The court transcript states, recordings will also establish Frank Cali's position in the family. For example, in November of 2002, Frank Cali was intercepted meeting with a captain in the Gambino family, Michael DiLeonardo, who was surreptitiously recording the conversation at that time. At the time, Cali was a member in the family and DiLeonardo was a captain. So, even before he became an acting captain, he was discussing in that recording family business and administration business. And all the while, Michael DiLeonardo was on court supervision as far as Frank Cali knew during that conversation.
As with all of my videos over the years, I simply provide interesting pieces of information. It is up to the viewer to draw their own conclusions if they wish. I always feel that the more information the better, and hope that the videos provide some food for thought. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts on the topic covered in this video. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.